So we'll stick to talking some basketball and jump into the state of our Detroit Pistons. I know it's been a long football season, but there are other sports, so don't fold yet. There's more to the world than football.
Yep, more losing teams to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we've
Yeah,
got
it's
another
great. Yeah, I like
well
that.
below average team that we can just, tickle your fancy, if you will.
So let's get into it.
So we'll get into so I know everybody's been sleeping on them, so I'll just remind everybody where
Tickle
they
your
are in the standings. They are 13-24. They're 11th in the East, and about 3-ish games out of 7th or 8th seed in the terrible Eastern Conference. I look at that, and it's funny to me that they're 11 games below 500, but they're only just a couple games out of the playoff spot.
That's the East.
So, I mean, look, the record, it is what it is at this point. But, Ryan, you say there is a little more upside than meets the eye when you're looking at numbers here.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're 3 games out of the 8th seed, like what you're saying, and Blake Griffin's been hurt all year. When he was playing, he was a liability to the team. He's been terrible. So that's the guy that, scored 25 points last year a game, was an all-star. He was supposed to be the guy on the team. Reggie Jackson hasn't played. So, I mean, this team is exactly what we thought they were. If they were healthy the whole year, they might be 6th seed at best, most likely 7 or 8 seed, and get swept in the first round.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're underperforming right now, to me, is kind of a good thing. It's kind of setting the path for this organization right now, and it's forcing their hand to do so. So, last week we talked about what kind of trade assets would be the best trade asset for this coming year, and we talked about Andre Drummond being the biggest piece in Michigan, basically.
Yeah, he
for all
won
the
Trade Bait of
sports.
the Year award.
Yeah, and then just a couple days later, a few days ago, Andre Drummond trade rumors with Atlanta Hawks and then after that one, it was like several teams interested. So I think that's a good way to just kind of set this franchise in motion in seeing what we can get for this guy. We don't want to lose him. We don't want his contract to just run out, or we don't want to pay him a max contract either.
Yeah.
So right now is the time to get the assets that we can get back for him. Whatever trade value we have right now is the highest. He's been playing well, even though it hasn't been the best the last few games. His stock is really high right now.
Yeah, and it seems like ownership's ready to take the step back that I think a lot of fans have been asking for the last couple of years now.
Yeah, and all that kind of went to pieces when we traded for Blake Griffin, though. And so while we had Blake Griffin, it was the Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond experience or experiment.
Yeah, experiments.
It was
Yeah.
experiment. And it just hasn't worked. And it didn't work. Doesn't matter the coach. It hasn't worked. They've just been the middling team in the East that we've seen the last several years.
Yeah.
So what I think we do have right now is we do have a whole bunch of young guys with some real upside on this team all coming in at the same time. And I mean guys like Christian Wood, which I watch him and I think he's a starter in the NBA. He's super athletic, super tall. He can move his feet. He can shoot threes. He's everything that you want. He just isn't a huge body like a Drummond. But most teams out there don't have a big body like Drummond right now. That's not the NBA that we're living in. You got a guy like Svi Mikhailuk, who we got in the Lakers trade last year, and this guy, I think he's a good player. He's a really, really good 3-point shooter.
Okay.
He's going to be probably like a 40 to 42% free 3-point shooter in his career. That's kind of what I'm guessing. But he also makes good decisions with the ball. He can dribble. He's 6'7", so he's one of the bigger body kind of guys. We have Luke Kennard, who's also a good shooter. He's hurt right now, but we have some guys that can step up and make plays. I think these guys could be on a really, really good team and contribute on a really, really good team. What we don't have is that main starter, those maybe like the big three. If you want to create a big three, we don't have 2 of those.
Okay.
And so at one time we always had Drummond and we had Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, he's a shell of himself at this point.
Yeah, and he always got this really good reputation, but he always played with Chris Paul too, another big playmaker. And so when the ball's in his hands every single play going down the stretch, he's never done it for me. I don't think he's the right guy to make a team a contender.
He'd be a good compliment to if we had a good point guard.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's where he's been at his best.
Yep.
And that's where we've always been missing. If we had a Damian Lillard on the Pistons last year, we probably would have made a pretty good run.
Yeah.
But that's a superstar. You don't just run into those.
Yeah, exactly. So I did bring up some ownership, kind of seeming like they're ready to move on. So there were some quotes that came out from Tom Gores after the loss of the Clippers in L.A., where he happened to have, I think, his courtside seats, and probably is the first game he's attended all year. But he basically said we've had a hard time with health and everything else like that, and we thought we could manage injuries a little better. We've got a lot of work to do. We're not winning, and the record is the record. So we just have to keep plugging away. He goes on to say, well, we have to look at everything because we're not winning. So you're not winning. So you're not winning. To me, you have, wow, this is really hard to read. You have to assess everything. What is going on here? I think anybody would want to do that. He continued, and probably in the next month or so, we're going to get together as an organization and just discuss things. He brought up Andre in particular. He said Andre is going to have to make his choice. I mean, Andre is a great player. So we'll just see. All these things are unknowns, and it's kind of difficult to filter through all this little bit of health bad luck. Terribly read, I get that.
Yeah, that was hard.
That was... I think it was his fault, not mine, right?
That's what she said.
I read it perfectly. I read it exactly how he would want me to read it.
Yeah, I think, he maybe was stuttering a bit.
Yeah, I think that's how he said
exactly.
it. Yeah.
So basically, from what I'm hearing here is obviously he's disappointed with the record, and he's finally admitting that it's not a quick fix here, is what it sounds like to me. He understands that you can't just go out and buy something at the deadline. You can't stand pat at the deadline, and you basically have to pick your way. Is what maybe that was just hope when I'm reading that or hearing it, but I'm curious if you don't have any thoughts on it. Is what it is, and especially because I read it so terribly. But.
Well, he was getting at that they have a window of opportunity with the players they have and the contracts they have, and with the injuries. And this is what I meant by their hand is kind of forced right now to play towards the future instead of for this year. It's because they have Reggie Jackson, Blake Griffin, Markieff Morris, and Luke Kennard all injured right now. And Drummond was out a couple games in there too.
Yeah.
So you have, I mean, those are with Andre playing, you still have 4 of your top 6 players in your rotation injured.
Yeah. So for the people that don't understand, so Andre Drummond he's a high paid player. He has a player option at the end of this year to become a free agent. If I'm correct on that, it might not be a player option.
Let me look it up.
All right. Sounds good. His contract's up at the end of the year, one way or the other. Either it's an option or it's not.
He's got player option next year.
Okay, so.
But his option in his mind is to get paid.
Yes.
Which is fair enough because, again, it's been a middling organization.
Yeah. Yep.
In a state full of snow.
So that's what they're talking about when he's bringing up Andre. He's got the decision, but we can't sit around and wait for it. In a lot of ways, if we have an opportunity to move him, we have to take the opportunity. Then all of a sudden, some trade rumors came out. You brought up, was it with the Atlanta Hawks?
Atlanta Hawks was the first team mentioned.
Yeah, and there's been a couple more. It's been a little quieter.
Yeah, I think
the last few days, but
I think the Raptors and some other teams were in there too. Maybe what were the Lakers too? I don't remember.
I don't remember hearing that one, but it'll just be interesting to see. And obviously, Andre's going to come out and say the right things. He basically just said, "I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to quit on this organization. I started here. I want to finish here." Saying all the right things to a certain extent, but he's also said the opposite. This is something every once in a while as well. So, you like what you're hearing from him?
I think he's more than happy to play in Detroit for his entire career as long as he gets paid.
Yeah,
and I mean that's how a lot of basketball players are in this day and age because they know there's a lot of money to be made in the NBA right now, especially for a guy like Drummond. If Drummond went to a 5 or 6 seed in the West, he would be he'd be really, really good.
Yeah.
If he stepped up, he didn't have to be the offense. Right now, he is the focal point of the offense on way too many plays, and he just isn't designed to be that guy. He's designed to clean up messes, to be the big body in the middle, to make a difference when the play isn't designed for you. That's who he is. That's where he's best. So if he's the third or even fourth option on teams, he would flourish.
Yeah, so I feel like you're talking pretty high on Andre. So I'm curious of where you stand. Would you like to see them move him for whatever they can get, or would you rather see them try to re-sign him?
I think at this point, I would rather them move Andre Drummond. And I've been a big fan of Drummond for a long time. I want them to keep, because I see the potential in building around him. But I also know what the history of 7-footers, getting in their later 20s and early 30s when you still haven't done something. Like, what is he, like 25, 26, I think?
Something like
26.
that. He's
Yeah,
pretty young.
I mean, he's pretty young, but I don't think we're a year away from contending. I don't think we're 2 years away from contending. I think
Next thing you know, he's getting close to 30s.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That type of body doesn't really last that long.
Right, and at that point,
fair.
when we're trying to add the talent that we want, that would be the contract, maybe the biggest contract that we have on the books.
Yeah.
And I just don't think the timing works out.
Okay.
So I think the time is now to pull the trigger on him, and he's had a really good season. He led the NBA, I don't know how many years in a row in rebounding. He's doing it again this year, and he's been scoring more too.
Yeah.
So
say Griffin gets his season-ending surgery that's coming out that they're talking about him kind of going back and forth on, and you do find a way to sell Drummond. Do you also sell like a guy like not Chris Paul, Derrick Rose, who's been playing pretty well, could be a decent player? I mean, do you just blow this thing completely up and obviously keep the core guys, like the young guys that you want to build around? But I mean, other than that, it's just pretty much sell everything you can, right? And just, I know people hate the word tank, but in a lot of ways, that's what it's going to be, right?
yeah, I really do. I think that would be a great idea, and Derrick Rose could help a lot of teams right now. He is having, and I think Kyle just brought this up before we started this segment, but he has a better. He has better averages across the board per 48 minutes this year than he did in his MVP season.
Crazy.
Yeah. So he's
playing well when he's
playing.
playing.
Killing it right now.
Yeah.
And the offense is running through him when he's on the floor. What the Pistons are doing really well right now is they're playing him 28 minutes a game.
Yes.
They're not forcing the issue. He's not playing 36 minutes in a game, and he shouldn't, because his body shouldn't do that.
Okay.
But what he is cheap insurance for a team one injury away from ruining their entire season.
Yeah.
So if he was to go to a Utah, or if he was to go to a Denver or something like that, where if you get one injury and you could throw Derrick Rose in there as a replacement, that's a pretty good place to be.
That's true. Yep.
So I think we do. I think we sell high. We sell this team, again, for the same reasons. We're not contending. He's on a 2-year contract right now. He's cheap. Teams should be interested. Take advantage of maybe an all-star season.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I like that. I'm excited to see where this all comes down. Trade deadline coming up, in a couple months.
Yeah.
I love that time of year when our teams suck. So.
I think what's fun watching the Pistons right
it
now.
brings some excitement, doesn't
yeah,
it?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's our Super Bowl.
I think what's fun right now is looking at, our Super Bowl for basketball last year. Our NBA championship was the draft, right?
Yeah.
And we got Sekou Doumbouya.
Yep.
And this is a young guy from overseas. He was a project. The Pistons made it sound like he was a steal in the draft. We were all like, not really sure. Yeah, we'll believe it when we see it. But so far in the G League, he was playing really, really well. He plays older than his age, more mature than his age.
Okay.
And he has started 3 games in a row. He's getting really a lot of minutes. He's playing a lot. He's playing like 34, 38 minutes right now. And he hasn't looked overwhelmed at all. I mean, so 2 of his games he's played against Kawhi Leonard, and he's guarding him and being guarded by him. He's playing Kawhi Leonard and LeBron. Those are 2 of his 3 games that he's played. And he's been beat only because he's overplaying defensively.
All right.
Yeah, and because they're Kawhi Leonard and LeBron.
And because they beat everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what I mean is, like, LeBron, he actually played really good defense against LeBron, but he stepped up and actually took on the challenge of him, and he came out, past the 3-point line, guarding him face to face, and LeBron just went by him.
Okay.
And that happened like twice.
Yeah.
So 4 points, but all the other times, LeBron didn't have a very good game statistically.
Okay.
No, he played him well.
Yeah, so he's up to the challenge. He's athletic. He's tall. He's making some rookie mistakes, but he's also not afraid. You don't see any fear in his game. He's shooting the ball. He has 2 double-doubles in those 3 starts.
Yeah.
And he's scored like 16, 11, and 10.
Who does he compare to in the league? Like, if you're gonna, obviously, a superstar level like type of game. Obviously, he's not to that. I'm not saying you're gonna say he's becoming that, but like, what type of player is he? Like, how would you compare him?
So the first comparison that everybody wanted to make was Antetokounmpo,
Yeah,
Okay.
Giannis. Yeah.
Giannis. Yeah, but Giannis, but he is bigger than Doumbouya. So Giannis is like 6'11"
Okay.
or 7 foot or something crazy. 6'10".
That's what always throws me off because it's a big difference between his 6'9" to 7 foot is a big, yeah.
And I think Seku's 6'8", so he's not far off.
Okay.
And he's extremely long. I mean, you watch him play in person.
Oh, sorry, I thought Sekou was 6'9". That's what
He might be.
Giannis is like 7 foot. He's
Yeah.
a legit.
Okay.
Like, I don't know how he's a freak of nature. He's a Greek freak.
Yeah.
And his
so
arms
that-
go down past his knees.
exactly. Yeah.
But Doumbouya has some of that too, so that's where the
He does.
comparisons come in. What I think is different is their games are very, very different though. So their
Okay.
body type might be similar, but Doumbouya is just turned 19 years old, by the way. Just turned 19. He's the youngest player in the NBA. He has super long arms, but he can shoot.
Cool.
Like he shoots
Yeah.
35 to 40% in the G League right now, 3-pointers, and it's not just like on 3 attempts. He's shooting the ball
He's a
quite a bit.
legitimate shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
And he can handle the ball, score both hands. Like he's got a lot of talent.
Okay. No, I'm excited to see him once he gets a stat. I can't sit and watch a game. I'm sorry, but there's not. It
I
doesn't
wouldn't expect you
intrigue
to.
me. I'm not a big NBA guy,
above
let
that,
alone a
but-
basketball guy. That's you guys know that. And I'm not going to pretend to be. So, thank you guys for giving your thoughts on that. If you guys like what you're hearing, we are going to be talking some Red Wings here coming up. So if you're watching this, check out the podcast or check out the next video. We'll keep this thing rolling, like I said last time. I say that every time.